This is chess, not checkers. Inside sale. This is chess, not checkers.
All right, Dan Stoebling, thanks for getting on, dude.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it.
A lot of people I don't think know you. You kind of run under the radar a little bit, but you're a big producer. I'd love to learn a little bit about what brought you to Family First Life and who hired you and how you got started.
Yeah, sure. So thanks for having me on, first and foremost. I've been in financial services and insurance for, about 10 years now. And I've been in insurance in particular for the last 5. Teresa Morrow Prindota, she called me one night. I was working as a MetLife supervisor. It was hour 16. I'd been in my office the entire day. She called me and she said, hey, have you thought about going independent? And never really thought about it. I always worked for State Farm or, other large companies and stuff, and never really went out on my own. And that was kind of the beginning of it. That was kind of the genesis of all this.
How'd she get your number?
ZipRecruiter.
Wow.
ZipRecruiter. Yeah. I kind of threw it out there and said, you know what? I just want to see what's out there right now. It was a good job. I mean, it was paying 6 figures. It was decent, but it was just the hours and the lack of independence, which I just couldn't deal with anymore.
You said you were on hour 16 when she called you?
Hour 16. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that job was very intense. I had 135 people working for me at the time, and it was a very intense position. But it's something that it kind of led me to this because it let me realize, okay, if I'm going to put the hours and the time in, I may as well do it for myself.
So that was big for you, not the money. It was doing it for yourself.
Doing it for myself and building something. Yeah, it's just, you look at all the time you were spending, and it just got to the point where it's like, what am I doing?
Yeah, that's weird. That's what attracted me to it, too. It wasn't necessarily money. It was like freedom of time and building something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what did Teresa say?
Honestly, it was just a conversation. My parents are from New York. She's a New Yorker, so it was kind of
right away. You clicked.
Yeah, it clicked, and I kind of just, and I had some questions kind of about, what her day was like, kind of what are some of the, what are the great things about it, what are the such not so good things about it, and she was very candid with me. So other people always try to sugarcoat it or embellish the actual, but she was, if you work, you stay vigilant, you'll be fine. And that's kind of what stuck out with me.
Were you hesitant about anything before coming this route? Were you?
I was hesitant about leads. I mean, everybody's hesitant about leads, right? They always want to go, where are the leads coming from? How are you getting them? Where are they, all that stuff. But that kind of was put to bed when I talked to her in further detail and kind of saw what was there. I come from a background of buying leads, and so that never really scared me. I just understood that you got to put the work in.
Got it. And when you first started, what year was that?
2016 is when I first got contracted. I didn't really go full go until May of 2017. I always say May 1st is my anniversary.
And what were you doing when you weren't full go?
I was still working for MetLife as a supervisor doing that, so I was still kind of in between. I had some personal stuff from my grandfather passing, so I had to go back east and handle his estate. So it was kind of just the timing wasn't right, But I came back from that experience saying, okay, it's time for me to kind of go full go, kind of fully commit, and that's kind of when I did May.
Now, when you weren't fully committed, when were you running appointments? Was it like on the weekends, or was it just so-and-so here and there?
Yeah, I mean, it was hit and miss. I mean, it's one of those things where I try to run them when I can when I was in town, in between my 6 hour, my 6 days a week, 80 hours a week job at that point. So it was hard to fully commit because I was still thinking I needed to work for somebody, other than myself.
Okay, so you made the commitment, and when did you have your biggest month, like as far as hitting 20K in a month?
That was my first month.
Your very first month?
First month, yeah, because I just hit the ground running. I talked to Paul and obviously Teresa, and they were like, okay, well, this is what you need to do to get there.
What was that?
Just get on the phone. I mean, a simple thing. I mean, all of us have been there. We all try to find reasons for not to get on the phone. I remember hearing you talk many times about.
I always hated the phones.
It was, it's not that scary until you realize that it's going to generate you thousands and thousands of income.
I've always hated it, but it's worth it. And do you notice that it's always harder when you first start dialing, and then once you get your first few out of the way, it gets really easy?
Yeah, it builds momentum.
Yeah.
Especially after that first appointment, you're like, okay, not everybody's going to say no, or it just, and you get comfortable, and then, by the end of it, you have 15 appointments in 3 hours. You know what I mean, or more. I mean, it's a confidence thing. It's just getting, it's getting comfortable.
So you got on the phones, you booked a bunch of appointments, you wrote $20,000 your first month.
Yeah, I came out and just said, this is what I'm going to do, and this is how I'm going to do it, and like anything else, and I know all the calls and all the information we have available to us now is, going out there. It's a numbers game. It really, I hate to say that and be, kind of cliche, but it is. It's the truth. I mean, if you make the 200 to 300 dials, if you go out there and door knock 10 to 15 people per week, I mean, it's not a secret. It's just that's what you need to do, and that's what I went out and did and said, this is what I'm going to do, and I've been hitting 20 ever since.
You hit 20K every month?
Every month, yeah. I mean,
every month,
or 30 or 40 sometimes here and there. So yeah.
So 20K is your drop dead goal, dude. And I love it because you're so quiet. You don't go, hey, look at me, I'm so good. But you know a lot of stuff. I know you do because I see your numbers, how consistent you are. So I'm going to try to get some of that out of you today.
Absolutely. If I can help you.
All right. So what type of leads? Like, what's your favorite type of leads? Is there a favorite type of lead?
So, I mean, to answer your question, a lead's a lead. And I know that sounds like a little, it's vague.
It's just
and
a
generic.
number, right?
It's a number. It's a person to call. I mean, I can tell you that I've taken final expense leads and turned them into mortgage protection, meaning you find the need there. So you say, okay, well,
once you get in the door, you find the need.
Once you get in the door, you find the need. And so that's part of the whole thing is getting in the door. So I've worked Medicare leads, I've worked mortgage protection leads, I've worked final expense leads, I've worked life insurance, I've worked every lead that I think we offer or outside, and I've tried some too that haven't worked out so well, but I'm not afraid to try.
Yeah. Now, my big moment in insurance is when I go, whoa, the lead is just to get in the door to someone that's open about talking about insurance. That's the only purpose of it. It doesn't matter what type of insurance, because you might not even help them with that. They might not need that,
Absolutely. And so any new agent, any old agent, I guess a veteran agent, same thing, just get in the door.
When you were new, did you try to sell over the phone, like give more info? You never did.
No, I mean, and I came from a background, years past where, I did a lot of property and casualty, and here, especially in Las Vegas, it's a very saturated market, but that's a lot of ways you have to make the sale over the phone. I literally took what the training said here and just took it to heart, and I didn't try to reinvent anything. I've been very fortunate to work with yourself and obviously Paul and obviously Teresa, so that always helps. But any advice I ever got or training I ever got was get in the door. Don't try to answer the phones. Get in the door.
Just get in the door on the phone. So if they say, how much is it? What do you say?
I always say, what? I wish I could tell you. It's just I have to ask you a few health questions, and due to HIPAA, I have to do that in person. That's not my rule; it's theirs.
You got it. What if they say, can't you just give me some information over the phone? Same thing.
Same exact response. If somebody pushes me and pressures and just keeps going after the pricing, I say, okay, it's $50 to $150.
Depending on what you qualify for.
Depending on what you qualify. Yeah. And then that way, they set it up that way. It's like, hey, I'm here to get you information. That's all I'm here to do. If you choose to do something with it, that's great. If you don't, that's okay too.
So how did you handle this? Because I think the biggest thing for new agents is they don't know what product to write. How did you get through knowing what product to write?
I did a lot of work before I went to appointments. A lot of times.
After you booked it, though.
After I booked it first. I didn't worry about the product until I had the appointment set and I knew I was going,
Yeah.
And then I worried about it after. Yeah, I said, I'm going to book the appointments and I'll talk to Teresa or Paul and then figure it out.
So you just go, hey, I booked this appointment and this is the scenario. What would you do?
Yeah, I basically would say, okay, they're 65 years old. They told me that they had some health stuff. Some people like to talk and they say something. So I'd mention that, and I'd mention kind of, that kind of stuff, and they would give you a general idea of if it was, mutual.
Got it. Okay. Let's rewind to the phones real quick. Yeah. How many hours do you spend a week on the phones?
Now, probably about 10.
And what are your dial days?
So dial days are Monday, Thursday, typically. If I'm doing something or,
you'll adjust.
I'll adjust it, but I'll make sure I always
have your appointment count. That's I think if people realize It's okay to do something where you get off your schedule as long as you make up for it another day. So what I always did is if I was going to be gone to do something with my family one day, I would make sure that I had my full appointment day before that day. I would plan for it, and I would still get the same amount of work done that week.
Yeah.
And you do that to hit 20K every month.
Yeah, I mean, I make sure that I run the 3 days a week. Now, is it always the same 3 days? No. Obviously, to your point, the life home comes up, and I like to do stuff. But I always make sure at least I'm doing that. So it's always the activity is always there.
Okay. Now, how many times do you call a lead in a row?
So I do 3 times. That's kind of what I've been trained to do. I know I've heard 5 times, 6 times. I mean, there's a certain line. I say 3, I think, is enough if you can't get a hold of them after 3. I mean, but I have a process in terms of working the lead too. So, I do 3 dials or 2 dials typically. So Monday, Thursday, and then I door knock on the Saturday in between appointments.
How much do you spend per week on leads?
Oh, God, $2,000 more.
$2,000 a week.
Yeah, $2,000 a week. Yeah. So
and what is that mix up of?
That's a mix of right now. I focus my energy more on mortgage protection. That's kind of where I put the money right now. I still do final expense. I mean, that's always going to be a part of this. But that's where because I've been fortunate to get a couple mail drops and some things in play, so I've been able to shift some of that money.
$2,000 a week, and you write 20 to 40 grand a month.
Yeah, right now it's at 26.5 roughly is where I'm at average wise.
Average is your 26,500. Yeah. And what do you think you keep as far as at the end of the month? What do you keep in your bank account?
God, 8 to 10,000.
8 to 10,000 a month net profit.
Yeah, net profit that I'm using to kind of put back into the business. I mean, I think something that you've taught me and Paul taught me is that take the money, put it back in right now.
But your net after leads, you're thinking is.
I would say 8. 8's probably a fair number.
Fair number.
After all the lead bills are paid, all the stuff.
See, I love real numbers.
Yeah.
Especially when people are getting going, so people can know what to expect.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have operating costs like any other business. I mean, so you have to factor in your leads. You got to factor in, anything else. There's not a lot of overhead here, which is a great thing.
It's just leads.
It's really just leads, and leads, and that's really kind of where my money is going right now. Obviously, I have an office now, which is always a good thing too. But yeah, no, leads is kind of my focus, and anybody's focus should be leads here.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I want to talk about the office thing here. I don't want to forget, so I'm going to stop on that, and then I'm going to ask you some questions about the in-home.
Sure.
What made you think it was worth it to get an office?
It was something that it just kind of made sense in my mind in terms of what I'm trying to do down the road here in terms of trying to expand my own brand, expand my own agency. Because right now, I think to your point earlier, I've been pretty quiet, just put my head down and gone to work, But that's given me a lot of great experience so that when I do bring on people, I can tell them, hey, I've been in this scenario. I know how to work it because I want to build good agents. And I think we all do. I don't think there's anybody out there that's like, I want to hire bad people and set them up to fail. But I think with the office, it puts me into a position where I'm coming in, focusing, saying, okay, I'm paying for this. How do I get to maximize the benefit of it? And that's why I've seen it.
So I've always been kind of like against having an office until I really started looking at it like a real business. And my thought behind it is if you can provide, now you can have local agents and agents at a distance, right?
Sure.
But if you have a place where agents can come and work and you can also interview people, and let's say it costs $1,000 a month. Well, you could make up for that if you hired one good agent for the entire year. So to me, I was like, if I spend X amount of money on getting an office, then can I get another $150,000 base shop locally, which I will, just from that. So am I losing money or am I making money? So I think I'm making money as long as I work. So if you get an office and you don't work, then it's not going to help you. But there is something to say when you interview people and they come into an office, they can meet you, see you, trust you, everything. I think what it does is you can get them moving faster. And that's a big reason why I like to get in front of agents when I hire them, because if they meet you, they trust you because they see you're a normal person. If you just don't know them, then they just don't know you. But I like that. So people have been asking me, they're like, when should I get an office? And a year ago, I would have said, you probably shouldn't. You don't need one. I've been working out of my car for years making dials.
Yeah.
But now that I see the bigger picture, to build something big, it is a good idea to get one. You know, it's not going to hurt you. It's only going to help you. Where do you dial, by the way?
So I have a home office, so I have a spot where I go, but I come in here now to do it. I've kind of made that shift and adjustment because, again, I want to come in here. I want to have it set to the point where I know I'm dialing. I know when I'm going to be starting hiring people. So it's it's structured.
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of lived in that, well, I'm not going to say gray area, but I've lived in that kind of ability to work out of home and cars,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. And again, I mean, I made it work, but I just think this is the place to do it now.
Yeah. Now, what's your goal when it comes to hiring?
Well, right now, I mean, I'm fairly new to that. So
you've just been making a living for 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah. I mean, I've just been putting my head down, buying the leads, doing the work. I've had people here and there, but it hasn't been a full-on business.
And that's a pretty cool program, right? For somebody who doesn't want to hire. You could go make a good living, control your schedule, be self-employed. No one tells you what to do. And it's not bad, right?
No, it's not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. I mean, and I could continue to do this the way I've been doing it, that wouldn't be an issue. But bigger picture stuff, when you talk to people like yourself and the Pauls and the Jacks and all these people, Grady, who've built these things, you can tell that it's just a matter of putting your head down in the same way.
Exact same way.
And just doing the same stuff. It's just changing and just adjusting some things, which.
So you're starting to do that. What are your goals on that, though? Like, when do you want to hit, like, VP? Do you have that in mind yet?
I honestly, I haven't gotten that far in terms of that. I'm just trying to get the process going to start bringing, so I can start incorporating it into my work week.
Yeah. Got it.
So.
Okay. So now let's get to the in-home. When you first started, were you scared of the in-home? How did it go? Anything that you were doing wrong that you could change?
I mean, the in-home, has always been... When I worked for my dad years ago, he's a personal injury attorney, and I went and signed clients in their home. So I was a little bit familiar with meeting people at their house, and that didn't really intimidate me. It was more along the lines of being in somebody's house and not knowing where to sit.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds weird because I always kind of came from an office, and I had my own office, and where the client's obviously going to sit, and you know where you're going to sit.
Yeah.
But that was the hardest thing for me to realize, like, where do you sit? I know it sounds silly.
So where do you sit? What did you do?
What I started to do, and this is what I realized, is that the head of the table, don't sit at the head of the table, especially depending on the client. But I always try to sit side to side, because I didn't want to have that table across from us. I didn't want to, a lot of these people have stuff piled up, so I wanted to be next to them so I could look them in the eye. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't a lot of, I didn't want distance. I thought that put us, it just put me away from the client. So I started to always sit next to them. And
you sit at the head of the table and they sit next to you?
Sit next to me, depending on if that's the way it works, or if it's a husband and wife, if the husband, it depends again. You know how it goes. But I always wanted to make sure that I saw both of them left and right.
Yeah, and I never wanted them sitting across from each other.
No, God, no.
Yeah.
Or
where your head's like going back and forth.
Yeah, because you can't, it makes it impossible. So that's where I've always made it a point to let them sit down first. And I go, okay, because sometimes they want to sit on their couch. I'm like, no, when you sit at a table. So I let them sit down.
What do you say if they go, let's just do it on the couch?
You know what? I need to write on this. I need a space to write on.
Yeah.
I make it simple. I don't want to go, because I don't want to sit on your cat.
Yeah.
Cat hair couch,
Are you allergic to cats?
No, I
am.
Oh God, no. No, I just, yeah.
All right. So you go in, you let them sit down at the table, and then you sit next to them, or do you just sit down at the head of the table?
I let them sit down first.
Okay.
I let them sit down first, let them kind of, because then I know who's who, or who's what. And it's just people, it's psychology, right? It's like the head of the table, usually that person's making the decision. Or they're the person who's going to say, hey, honey, you know what I mean? It just, so I always like to get that dynamic down and then sit next to that person. So if it's a person who filled up the card especially, I like to sit next to them. Because they're the one making the decision. Mm-hmm. And I want to make sure they hear what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that when we agree, you're going to agree with us because you understand that they want to do it.
Were you nervous on your first appointment?
Oh, God. It was bad. It was a lady that I tried getting a hold of, and I finally got a hold of her, and I just didn't know what to do. So I was overthinking it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got to do this and this. And no, you just got to sit down and ask a couple questions.
And if you got in trouble, did you call Paul?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Teresa, Paul. I mean, Jack was always great. I mean, he always was. Joe.
Even people you don't necessarily don't make overrides off you called and they helped you, right?
Yeah, because I've been to a lot of the conventions, a lot of the meetings, and that's where you meet these guys. And so that's where I kind of met them, exchanged phone numbers, and then said, hey, if I ever need help or if I can help you type thing. And, so everybody's been really good about that.
That's cool. Okay. So you were nervous. You went in. How did that first appointment go?
I sold it.
What was it like?
I just remember sitting there going, I can't believe she bought this from me because I was so all over the place. Like, because I was using the inventory, but I didn't know kind of how to use it.
Mm-hmm. And you're fumbling, skipping stuff all over the place.
Yeah. And then so like I was going back and forth. And eventually I kind of realized, okay, this is pretty simple. I found out the need, and that was the biggest key, was finding out what she wanted to accomplish.
What did she want? Do you remember?
She wanted to make sure her kids were taken care of. She had 2 kids, one living with her. The one living with her was disabled. So,
dude, that's a huge key. If you didn't learn that, like they'll tell you what they need if you listen, right?
Oh God.
It's like how many people I've been in homes where other agents have been there, and I'll ask enough questions where they're like, "Well, my husband just died, and I have a disabled kid, and I'm the main breadwinner." And then I'm like, did anyone else ever ask that? They're like, no. They just show a bunch of prices, rates, all this stuff. I'm like, okay, I got it. So we need to make sure we find something that's affordable, fits your needs, fits your budget, and we're gonna make sure that your family is taken care of. That way, if something happens, your kids are taken care of. Especially you have a disabled kid who can't take care of himself. That's what we're looking at. Yes, that's what we're looking at. Okay, here we go. Dude, it's so crazy, though. If you just listen, they'll give you the answer.
Oh, all the time. I mean, I will tell you today, I was in a house today, and I literally asked an open-ended question and said, okay, what's going to happen to the house if you pass away? What do you want to see happen here? Well, I want to make sure Jim's taking care of and all this stuff. And so just from asking that, they told me exactly what they wanted to do, how they wanted to do it. They told me that, I don't necessarily need to, I'm buying time. I said, okay, so you're basically buying time for your son, right? That's what I'm trying to do. Okay, well, critical time period coverage.
Let's go over that, dude. That's so big and so hard for a lot of new agents to understand. Oh. So you're in a mortgage protection appointment, sure, and the person qualifies for only whole life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they have a mortgage. How much was the mortgage?
$250,000.
And they want the whole thing covered in your mind, right?
Well, that's what they
think. That's what they think,
yeah.
And so a new agent goes, whoa, I can only give them $25,000, with a whole life policy, or get multiple whole life policies on top of each other. And it's $250 a month or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sell me that.
Yeah, so basically what I do is I go through the financial inventory. Okay, so I find out, obviously all the particulars, medications, health stuff, everything else. And then that's where you figure out where you can place them, right? So that's where, depending on the client, and the one I had today, I showed him what we could do to pay off the entire mortgage. And so it's an astronomical number. Okay, so, but again, my job is to show you options. That's what I told you from the beginning. I'm gonna show you options. But I always start there and say, okay, this is option A. This is option A. We can pay off the entire mortgage. There's a certain term to it. And these are the prices, okay? You're also eligible for a thing called critical time period coverage. Have you ever heard that term before?
No.
Okay. What that effectively means is that it will give a lump sum to your beneficiary, if it's your son, daughter, whoever it may be, but it keeps them in the home for a certain period of time. Now, a year and a half, 2 years, so that they don't have to make a bad decision, so that they can stay in the home, pay the bills, but more importantly, not be forced to sell in a down market. Because you're talking about $80,000 of equity in your property, Jim. That's what you have right now. And 5-10 years from now, it's only going to get more. You don't want them to walk away from $30,000, $40,000. So when I say a $10,000 policy or $25,000, whatever you choose, you got to factor in that equity. So a $10,000 policy, you have $80,000 of equity. It's a $90,000 policy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So then I break down the options and I say, okay, based upon what we've talked about and what we've seen here, what is the best option for you and your family?
Okay. And I pick.
You pick option a year and a half, 2 years.
You're doing this up front. So that way, they're not going to say, well, I want the whole thing paid off after. And then you have to explain that after. You're doing it before they can say that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do it in the intro.
So do you say most people do this one, or do you lean them toward, because the most likely they're going to pick that option, right?
Yeah, so I know just based upon, again, now, have I had people who've said, okay, I'll pay the $600 a month for the two?
Yeah.
Of course I have, but that's why I offer it. You know, because I'm not going to sell myself short and say, okay, I'm not even going to show them that.
Yeah.
Because it's amazing.
It's crazy that, dude, every like month I would always get one. I remember this one lady over the phone. She goes, hey, why? Someone already came over. They couldn't help me. Why would I let you come over? And I was just joking around. I go, well, I have blue eyes. And she's like, oh, okay, sweetie, come on over, right?
There you go. I'm gonna use that one.
So I go over, and I show her critical time period protection. She's got like a $500,000 mortgage, and she was 80 years old. And if we did 5 $25,000 policies, well, I showed her one first. It was like $300 a month, right? She's like, I want more. So I show her another one, $300 a month. She's like, I want more. I show her another one, $300. Dude, it got to like $1,400 a month, and she goes, okay, I want that one. She's a doctor, and she had a disabled daughter.
Oh, there you go.
And she's like, I have to do something. Now, the other person was showing her, I don't know what they were showing her, but whatever, she didn't want it. Maybe they didn't explain critical time period protection right. Who knows, you know?
It's explaining it is the biggest part.
Yeah, and being proactive on explaining it.
Yeah, and being proactive, being ahead of it. I mean, I will tell you, I mean, my intro is designed for a certain way because that's what gets me past all the, I work with the objections at the very beginning. I mean, I make sure that, I've been on hundreds of appointments now. I mean, I almost want to say thousands. Yeah. So you just know, let's just work this out before and just tell them, hey, you know, it's either going to pay off the mortgage or make the payments for you.
Yeah.
But we're going to see what you qualify for. I mean, I'm not the guy. I'm just the messenger. I'm just giving you information.
Do you ever get nervous now on appointments?
No.
Never.
I mean, you don't get nervous. You get kind of like, people throw you off.
Yeah.
They throw you that curveball.
Do you still feel like a really good high after you help somebody?
I do. Oh, yeah, every time.
Dude, I loved that. I'm like, every time you help someone, it's almost like a drug.
Yeah, somebody really needs it too. There's some people out there that, I mean, if Jim or, you know, or does Bob and Mary, if Bob and Mary passed away, I mean, they're going to be in trouble. And if they don't have this, I mean, they're going to be in serious trouble.
Have you had anybody die?
I have.
How many people?
5.
And did you follow up with them at all?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I told them I told them from the very beginning in the meeting, I'm going to do the paperwork for you. I mean, I've gone through this before. I know what it's like. I don't want you to go through it. I'll do it for you. I'll hand you the check, and then you're good to go. That's one less thing you got to worry about. Mm-hmm. And I do that every time.
Yep.
And
you go sit down with them?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's not pleasant.
Mm-mm.
It's not pleasant, but I'd rather be there like I said I was going to be, because that's part of what we do here, right? It's integrity. It's being a professional. But no, I've done it, and you know, it's again, and I use this in appointments now because I say I've handed somebody a check for $150,000.
Yeah.
I mean, tax-free money. This is yours. I mean, obviously, it's not a pleasant moment because their partner's gone, but
it's a more pleasant moment than if you weren't there. Dude, what's crazy? So I've had probably like 30 people die. So it's just a numbers game. Like I've seen so many people, right? They're going to die. Somebody's going to die.
Just the way it goes, yeah.
Well, I remember this one lady, her husband died, and his stuff was everywhere. Like she didn't know where his money was coming in from. She didn't know how her insurance worked. She didn't know nothing, right? Dude, I probably sat there for, I don't know, 10 hours total calling Social Security and doing all this stuff and getting her money for her insurance claim and finding out what other life insurance policies she has and all this stuff. But I'm like, dude, that's what it's all about, you know? And actually going up and following through with it if something happens.
My last death claim, I did the same exact thing because he handled everything. He was the one who did the bills, and she just had no clue. And then so, I mean, it's those moments you say, that's my mom.
Yeah.
You know, or it's my aunt or whoever it may be in your life, you know, who needs that help. And you want to be that person. You know, you want to be that person because that's what you're here for.
Yeah.
I mean, to your point, that's why we do it.
For sure. All right. What type of mail drops do you do for mortgage protection? Because I think a lot of people, they just check the buy per lead plans and they kind of just stop searching there if it's not available. What kind of mail drops do you use?
So the ones that I've used are here, obviously in Clark. So I've used the ones from ARM is kind of who I've been using.
Okay, the subscription one, or
it's the one where, the subscription one where they get so many pieces of data, then they mail it out per week, and then they charge you whatever they mail out, and then you get a return 2 to 3 weeks later.
And how much do you pay on? How much is that, like, per week?
Oh, 1,000 to 1,500, depending on how much.
What do you think your return is on average?
Depending on which county, Clark's a little bit 1%, or maybe a little less. Other places have been about 1.5%, 2%, 3% certain times.
Dude, what's crazy is people don't use that.
When it's coming back at 3%, it's fantastic.
And when it's coming back at 0.2,
you're starting to, you're starting to sweat it. You're like, oh man, what did I spend? But
But it all averages out, right?
It doesn't. And I've done BPO. I've done a lot of them. I've tried all of them. Do call-in lead. I do a lot of them.
Do you do call-in leads?
I do.
Okay, let's talk about that, because that's like I believe our team and Family First Life in as a whole, the more leads that are purchased, the more premiums that's written, the more money the agents get paid, and the more people are helped. And I know that when lead purchases go up from the agents I see, I believe they're working because they don't want to lose the money they spent on the leads, number one, and then number two, they want to go make money. And I'm saying that from my own experience. So I always tricked myself into buying a lot of leads because it would force me to work. I didn't have a lot of bills. So I didn't have any kids. I wasn't married. So I had to trick myself into working, which was, let's put a big investment up and then have to go work.
Yeah.
But call-in leads are available all over the country. And even agents that I'm working with, they don't use them. They don't utilize them. And if they do, I believe that they're not doing it right because they're having bad experiences. So if you can run through these with us.
Yeah, of course. I would say if you're in a county that offers call-in leads, you should utilize them. Call-in gold, call-in regular, whatever you call-in light.
And how does it work? What's the price? How does that work?
So call-in gold are $36, I believe, and then call-in are $5, $5 and like 1 cent or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're.
And what do you say when you? And this is someone that got a loan, right?
Yep.
And they get a postcard in the mail that says, call this about information regarding the loan you recently got. So it doesn't say anything about insurance on the card. They call in and it says, hey, we're going to get you information about mortgage protection. And then the computer asks them a bunch of questions. So if it goes all the way through the prompts and they answer all the questions, it's a call-in gold lead. If they don't, then it's a call-in silver lead. That means they hung up before they answered all the questions, right?
Correct.
What do you say when you call these agents?
I do it. I mean, I call them the same exact way I would call mortgage protection lead.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't make it. I don't make
That's
any
it right there.
Yeah.
So do you say you filled out a form in the mail?
I say if they ask any further, say, you actually received the postcard in the mail, which you dial the phone number on that postcard asking for information about mortgage payment protection.
Do you find that some of the people actually did fill something out in the mail as well?
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah, all the time.
Dude, if people could understand
All
this,
the time.
it's insane. What I get a lot of people is going, they didn't do it. A lot of agents complaining, but what they got to remember is a lot of the people they're calling actually did fill out a form. And if you just call them and say hey, you filled out this form, I'm going to bring you the information, they most likely did, and you can get there even faster than if they filled out a form.
Yeah, and how I start the call is say, I'm getting back to you from the Mortgage Payment Protection Center. So it doesn't matter form, no form, call, whatever it is. Oh, yeah. I mean, I get that a lot. Like, oh, yeah, I did do that. Oh, yeah, I did that. It doesn't matter what form they filled out or how they called in. They're already, that's what I
dude,
want to do.
On a side note, you know why I love final expense? Direct mail, final expense. Even if they're older. Like I could buy the oldest direct mail final expense leads and I call them. Most likely that person did just fill out a form in the mail, even though it was a different one. So I go, I'm calling you about the form you just recently filled out in the mail. Even Facebook leads too. I'm calling you about, you could say you're calling them about the form they filled out on Facebook. They probably just did another one.
Oh God.
You know,
Oh, God.
How many of them did they do?
Yeah, I mean, and I've been buying leads long enough to see, your CRM. You can look at, Jim Smith, and he pulls up all the Jim Smiths, and I swear to goodness, like Facebook final expense, whatever it is, I've seen the same name come up a couple times.
Dude, I've had people fill out a final expense direct mail lead, a mortgage protection lead, and a Facebook lead, the same person. Actually, I got a final expense direct mail lead. Paul McLean got a mortgage protection lead. And then another agent got a Facebook lead. So Paul went in, and the lady already had insurance, but she was a really sweet lady, and she was like, "Hey, my son is sick. I'm raising money for him." And Paul gave her I think $250 or something. So I go in and on a different lead, and she tells me the whole thing. She tells me Paul gave her $250. So I was like, all right, I'm going to give you $300. Right.
Nice, yeah.
And then Brittany Hall was the other agent that got it on a Facebook lead. She goes there and she's like, dude, I had to give her the money.
Right, you had no choice at that point, right?
She's like, both of you did, which she wanted to anyways. She wanted to help out, but she was like, dang, that was crazy. She filled out all these leads. She's like, I think she's just filling out leads to get people to come over and give her money.
That's her GoFundMe account, right?
Yeah. So anyways, it's funny. All right, cool, dude. Any tips you have for a new agent? We're going to wrap this thing out.
Yeah. I mean, tips for a new agent is get on the phone, get to work. I mean, work with your upline, work with the people, your manager, and get to know who you work with. I mean, hey, when you go to meetings, go and make it intentional. Go and talk to top people. Don't be afraid to walk. I mean, I will tell you how many people I've walked up to and just talked to them and just said, hey, Matt Smith, do you have 5 minutes? Yeah, of course. Yeah. And so, people will be generous with their time. I always say, if you want to come talk to me, I'll be happy to talk to you. I have no problem with that. Go and do that, because that's going to make this much easier for you. It's going to make your learning curve much shorter, but ultimately it's going to make you confident to know that you're not just by yourself.
Yeah. And you'll be more like the people around you.
Yeah, and you'll be more like, again, if you want to get to a position where like a Matt Smith or an Andrew Taylor or Paul McLean or Sean Mike. Yeah, I mean, or any of these guys, they're not bashful. I mean, they'll tell you, they'll say, hey, this is what you need to do. Sean Mike will definitely tell you what you need to do, which is what you need.
Yeah. I
mean, you don't need somebody patting you on the back. You need somebody to come to you and say, get off your butt and get to go. Get going, get to your first 100 appointments. Get comfortable, the knowledge will come, the product stuff will come. Don't worry, freak out about that, because everybody worries about that. No, get in the house, make the phone calls, get in the house, work with your team, and get better. And make sure you're getting yourself better every day. It's not Andrew Taylor's job to make you better. He's going to try, he's going to help, he's going to do everything he can. But you got to be the guy going, okay, what do I need to get better at? Annuities, or what do I need to learn about? What are you struggling with?
Yeah.
And then go and work on it, because at the end of the day, you're in control of this.
Yeah.
It's you and your team.
Cool. Well, thanks for getting on, dude. I'm looking forward to having you on again.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it.
Good job, dude.
Oh, yeah. Oh.